Hello, everyone. My name is Samuel Ayub. Today, we are going to be presenting the 1 hour webinar titled Commercial Real Estate at a Glance. I was motivated to put together this particular 1 hour presentation because of few reasons. First, I noticed from some of the Facebook groups for new agents, and also based on some requests from my previous students and other real estate people to put together something very short so they will make an educated decision whether they want to get into commercial real estate or not. Now, um, let's review basically the 4 topics. Uh, I am going to be spending a little bit of time just to tell you what's in the commercial real estate curriculum. But the main topics related to commercial real estate are commercial real estate definitions and types of commercial real estate properties, whether it's apartment buildings, offices, and so forth. And we're going to move to some simple calculations that you will need to know in order to get involved in commercial real estate. And we're going to be using a baseline of multifamily or apartments to start with. And then finally, we're going to spend some time talking about the valuation methods used in commercial real estate. All right, what's commercial real estate's curriculum? Commercial real estate has basically this 1 hour, which we used to use it in a format called Lunch and Learn. And usually we used to use it for real estate companies interested in recruitment. But anyways, I used to change from a day and environment to another. The second in the curriculum was an overview of commercial real estate. That's a short overview. It's 4 hours with 2 10-minute breaks, and that includes some review questions and answers. Then we have a course or a seminar called Commercial or Foundations of Commercial Real Estate for Investors and Residential Agents. And that's the format which have 2 half days, either consequently or in 2 separate days. This particular class used to include 6 segments with detailed questions and answers and 2 case studies, including syndications. The next in line, which I have done at quite a few, is a boot camp format entitled Commercial Real Estate from Foundations to the Syndications. And last but not least is the advanced topics of commercial real estate practice. For D and F in front of you, I haven't figured out for the boot camp, which is 2 days, and for the advanced topics, which is 3 days, any format that we can do that in a webinar. So the concentration now is on 1 hour, the 4 hours, and the 2 half-day webinars. Well, in summary, in commercial real estate investments, let's, before moving any forward, we would like to agree on a couple of things that we're going to be using apartment buildings as a baseline. This is very natural because the majority of residential people, and a majority of investors merging into commercial real estate investments, they would start with apartments rather than office or other types of commercial. The second, which I want you to be very aware of, is the operating expenses. It differs from one state to another. Operating expenses in California is 35% of the operating income. Why? Because only the property taxes in California starting 1978, there was a law passed that limits it to 1.25%. In other states, it can be 2.6, and I have seen it as high as 3% of the purchase price. It makes a huge difference. For example, last syndication we had, there was a $12 million property. But that property was in California. As a 1%, $120,000 a year or $10,000 per month. In other state where that property was located, the property taxes was 3%, and that is $360,000 a year, $30,000 a month. The difference is $20,000 each and every month. That impacts the operating expenses drastically. And also, it's very important to know from a state to another, even from a market to another, vacancy factors can affect the cash flow, can affect the return on investment, and return can affect quite a few other things. So we'll keep this in mind. So if you're listening from another state, take into consideration that our numbers for operating expenses, our numbers for vacancy factors has to be modified to fit your state. All right, going forward, what are the types of commercial real estate properties? Well, the average person thinks of the word commercial is something where people are working, chimneys are there, manufacturers are taking place, and that's a very big misconception because the industries, the commercial real estate industries, common definition is, believe it or not, anything which is not a single family used as a primary residence, anything else is considered commercial property. Well, people may not believe that, but that's the way it is. Uh, so generally speaking, any of the following will be defined as commercial real estate. And I'm using the CCIM definitions as a standard because the CCIM is the commercial arm for the National Association of Realtors. They set up the standards, and throughout my classes and my educational curriculum, I followed their standards. So later on, if somebody wants to take one of their classes, they will not have to do adjustments from my classes to their classes. I have quite a few people appreciating that because they considered my classes in a lot of situations a stepping stone towards other high educational commercial real estate courses. So what are the types? There are four main types. The first type is apartment buildings. Apartment buildings is anything which is 5 apartments or 5 units or more. Anything less than that, 1 to 4 units, is defined as residential income. So when you see the word residential income, you know it is 1 to 4 units maximum. That's the way the federal government wanted. That's the way banks wanted because the underwriting criteria, they're making it much easier for investors to start living in one unit and renting the other two or three. Anyways, the next in line, the next or the second in the four main types is retail or shopping centers. The main division between the apartments and the shopping centers in the way the lease or the leases are set up. For shopping centers, it's typically that the tenant not just pays for their own utilities, but they pay for their aggregate share of the whole building, including even the property taxes. Okay, so what is the third type? The third type is office buildings. In office buildings, we call it a full service when the owner leases a space to a business, they will include all the utilities with certain extent. There's some caps in the lease. And the fourth main type is the industrial properties. Industrial properties are very common in warehousing, in manufacturing, and this is the fourth type. Are there other types? The answer is yes, but they are not one of the four main types. Land, for example, special purposes like churches, such as uh, libraries, all of these are considered special purposes. Now, we want to go through what is it about commercial real estate that makes it very attractive. There's a lot of benefits in investing in commercial real estate. I am going to go through it because whether you are a real estate person considering getting into commercial real estate practice, you need to know them. Whether you are an investor, even having investments in the stock market, you need to look at these marvelous benefits in order for you to consider investing in commercial real estate. First, it's a dependable source of income. Why is it dependable source of income? Because with proper leverage, leverage means limited loans on the property. On the long run, it can be very dependable income. I have seen people retiring, and the main income coming in their retirement is from real estate. Second is it does have capital appreciation. Do not look at a short period, look at few years and compare it to other investments. For example, for the past 5 years or so, real estate investments in California overperformed the Standard & Poor or the S&P by 200%. The third of these benefits is a diversification. You're going to encounter people investing in nothing but the stock market. Stock market is a really good investment when it's going up or stable, but when it goes down, it can wipe out a wealth in no time. It's not the case for real estate. And it's not a good idea anyways to be only in the stock market. You need to diversify your investment. The next one is the stability of value. If you compare it to the stock market, when people are in a panic situation or there's a rumor they're running out of the stock market, you will find out that the value of your stock is affected by people scares or emotional involvement. That's not the case. In real estate, so long as you have your piece of real estate well taken care of and you keep it for a long run, it has a stability and value. It's a hedge against inflation. We're going to come up to this point later on, which is one of the main benefits. So even if inflation comes and you really don't have an actual wealth build-up, the only thing which is working for you at the time is your holdings in commercial real estate or real estate in general. Uh, Potential tax advantages is huge. Potential tax advantages, it gives investment in commercial real estate almost unfair advantage over any other investment. Whereas you can sell the asset and don't pay taxes or defer the taxes. It allows you within time frame to buy another piece of property, do not pay taxes, and move on to a bigger property. Where else that you are allowed to do that? If you sell your stocks, the first thing you need to do is get ready to pay the taxes on the gain. All right, so moving forward with what will be uh, the main characteristics of different pieces of or types of commercial real estate. I mentioned it briefly in the beginning, and we will talk about it later in the curriculum about the differences between investing in office buildings, apartments, and so forth. Generally speaking, what is common between all types of commercial real estate? First and foremost, it is held for investment. Your primary residence is not held for investments. Anytime you have to figure out income and expenses, that becomes commercial investment. You can live in a beautiful house, whether it goes up in price or not. You're happy about the school district. You're happy about the neighborhood. You're happy about everything. So whether it goes up and down, whether your income is increasing or decreasing to a certain extent, you will keep your house. But for investments, the investment has to make sense all, all the time so you can keep it. So as I mentioned, income and expense and cash flow, and that's the main purpose, people owning commercial real estate. Depreciation. Believe it or not, the government allows the owners of commercial real estate, the owners of commercial real estate, not the owners of any real estate, to write off as a loss on paper, big part of their investment annually. So if an apartment building is running $50,000 a year and the government allows you to write $50,000 as a loss on paper, you virtually do not pay any taxes. What a unique benefit. And also the main difference between commercial real estate and residential real estate, the methods of valuation, which is the topic of the last section in this short 1 hour. Also, as I hinted before, it is more vulnerable to economic changes. Remember I mentioned for your house, income and expenses are important. Income is your salary, expenses are your household expenses. So for months or two or even few months, if things are not going right, or even if you lose your job, you're going to defend your castle. You defend the place where you and your family live. But as an investment, if it's a piece of real estate, is not making economic sense. If it is running every month $2,000, $3,000, you can keep it for a period of time, and after that, you have no choice but to let go. So it's very vulnerable when economic changes drastically. You need to know that because banks know that. And banks, when they loan you, they know that at a certain point or another, you may, hopefully never, you may not be able to carry on. So that's where the vulnerability comes into the picture.